Hi guys. Today we're going to talk about how to use your Sling Psychrometer and how to use your reference table page 12. So what you can do, you're going to need your reference table. So get your reference table out, go to page 12, and we're going to be using page 12 in a second. So I just want to quickly review what the Psychrometer is all about. So I have mine. Psychrometer, remember, has two thermometers. One of them has a wet cloth that you dip in room temperature water, and the other one is called the dry bulb. So wet bulb, dry bulb. Now what you're going to do is you're going to dip it into the water first, which I will do for a lab probably tomorrow, and then you're going to spin it for a minute. Okay, and as it spins, the water on that wet cloth evaporates and it cools down that thermometer. Now, based upon how much actually evaporates, it will cool it down more or less. Remember, they started at the same temperature, but the wet bulb cools down, okay, because of evaporation. Now, that difference between the two is something that we're going to need to know. We need to know what was the dry bulb, what was the wet bulb after you spun it, and then you're going to use that information on your reference table. Okay, so on reference table page 12, you will see two charts. One of them is called dew point. The other one is called relative humidity. There's a whole bunch of numbers. There's a whole lot going on this slide. So let's just break it down really quickly and let's highlight something. So if you take a look at my screen, you'll see that I highlighted the top section up here, the difference between the wet bulb and dry bulb, one color, and the left-hand side, the left-hand column, the dry bulb temperature, a different color. Remember, the dry bulb temperature is just that one thermometer without the wick on it, without that cloth on it. It's dry. It's often called the air temperature because it's actually the same thing. The difference is the subtraction between the two of them, and you'll get a number between 0 and 15. Okay, so using this chart is pretty simple. You're just going down and you're going over with the numbers that you obtained. Okay, so let's try a few practice problems. I have up here a question and I have my reference table side by side. So we're going to do this together. So let's start with a question back here. So we'll go to, there we go. Okay, so it says, after swinging a Sling psychrometer, you find that the air temperature, or the dry bulb, is 18 degrees Celsius, and the wet bulb thermometer reads 12 degrees Celsius. So the first thing you're going to do is figure out the difference between the two of them. And if you simply do the math between 18 and 12, you're going to get a difference of 6. So I'm going to start with that. My difference is 6, and my dry bulb is 18. So there's 18 right there. And we're just going to simply go across from there, and we're going to go down from 6, and that should bring us to our answer, which is 7 degrees Celsius. And notice the units are up here, degrees Celsius. Okay, so 7 degrees Celsius is the answer. Let's check. Yep, we got that right. Okay, let's try another one. A student used a Sling psychrometer to obtain readings of 8 degrees Celsius and 11 degrees Celsius. What was the dew point? Okay, so this one's tricky for a couple of reasons. Number one, it doesn't tell you which one the dry bulb is and which one the wet bulb is. But if you just remember, the wet bulb is always colder because you have evaporation taking place. So the wet bulb is 8 and the dry bulb is 11. Okay, so that's the first thing. Figure that out. Now, if you do the math, 11 minus 8, that's 3. So we have a difference of 3. And we have a dry bulb of 11. So if you go down here, here's the next tricky part. There is no 11. You have 10, you have 12. They go by twos. So we're going to have to just think about what's in between here. Between 10 and 12 is 11. If I go across from there and I go down from 3, that's going to bring us here. So we have two numbers that we have to look at, 4 and 6. What's in between 4 and 6? Obviously 5. So let's check our answer. Yep, 5 degrees Celsius is the answer. Okay, let's try another one. It says if the dry bulb is 24 and the wet bulb is also 24, what is the dew point? This is kind of a cool question because if you think about this, there is no difference. The numbers are the same, which tells you that there was no evaporation taking place. You spun that thing around for a minute and basically wasted your time because the air was completely saturated. No evaporation can happen when the air is saturated. So the difference, you'll notice, is 0. Okay? And if you go down this 0 column, you'll notice all the numbers on the left-hand side, the dry bulb numbers, are actually the same as these. which tells you that the dew point is also 24. Okay, and there you go, there's the answer. All right, let's try this with the other chart, which is the relative humidity chart, which I'll pop up right here. Okay, make this a little bit smaller. And let's go to some questions regarding relative humidity. It's the same exact process. You have the exact same thing. What you can do is go in, if you want, and just highlight your reference table. Highlight this top section, highlight the left-hand side, kind of like I had it. And let's do a couple practice problems here. Okay, so first one. It says, if the wet and dry bulb temperatures recorded with the Sling psychrometer are 14 and 24, respectively, what is the relative humidity? Okay, so first it does tell you which one's which. The dry bulb is 24, and that's always higher than the wet bulb. And if you subtract those two numbers, you're going to get a difference of 10. Okay, and our dry bulb is 24, and you just go across from there. And you go down from 10, and you'll notice that the percent humidity is 30%, right? And we label that percent, okay? Now, you could have actually figured out that there was going to be a very low humidity because that's a big difference. That was a lot of evaporation taking place, so the humidity was pretty low, and therefore the relative humidity is 30%. Okay, let's try another one. It says, if both thermometers on a Sling psychrometer record 4 degrees Celsius, what is the relative humidity? Well, again, notice they're both recording 4, which means no evaporation happened. So they're both 4. The difference between them, 4 minus 4, is 0. Now look at this column, right? It's all 100%. The answer is 100% if you go over from 4. Why are they all 100% here? Because there is no evaporation taking place because the air is completely saturated. That means 100% humidity. And this would mean that you're probably standing inside of a cloud, or it's raining, okay, or it's snowing, really, really heavy snow. So that would be, in this case, 100% humidity. Okay, let's try one more. This is one of those where you have to estimate again. Okay, so it says, what is the relative humidity when the dry bulb is 17, the wet bulb is 12? Okay, so again, do the math. 17 minus 12 is 5, and we're going to go down from 5. We're going to go over from 17, but notice this is an odd number, so we have to estimate between 16 and 18. So we're going over from here. And if you go over from there, you're going to get 54 and 56, and halfway in between the two of them is 55% humidity. Okay, so hopefully you guys get the idea of how to use these charts. You're going to do more practice with this later on. And if you have any questions, let me know.